Welcome to Chasing Brighter, the podcast created as a guide to make midlife the best life.
Are you ready to embrace the next chapter of your life with confidence and excitement?
Join us each week as we bring you inspiring stories, expert interviews, and actionable tips to help you navigate the challenges and opportunities of midlife.
Are you ready to chase brighter days ahead?
Subscribe to Chasing Brighter now, and let's embark on this exciting journey together.
Remember, your best life is just a listen away. Welcome. Today, we are exploring a topic that's more important than ever as we are in the thick of the holiday season: financial boundaries. The holiday season can bring so much joy, but it's also a time when many of us feel pressured to spend more than we're comfortable with. From gifts to events, it's easy to get caught up in consumerism and stray from our financial values. So today, we're going to talk about how to stay grounded, stay true to what really matters, and set those all-important financial boundaries. So let's start by exploring what financial boundaries actually are. Essentially, they are limits that we set for ourselves about how we manage, spend, and save our money. They're designed to keep us feeling secure, stress-free, and true to our goals. When we set financial boundaries, we're being intentional about how we use our resources, and these boundaries help us make decisions that align with our values rather than letting external pressures influence that, like holiday ads, expectations from family or friends, which can dictate our spending. For instance, maybe you set a limit on how much you'll spend on holiday gifts this year. Or perhaps you decide you'll only participate in a few holiday events instead of stretching yourself too thin. These boundaries can be flexible, but the key is that they keep you grounded and mindful of what really matters to you and what your values are. Whether that's saving for the future, staying debt-free, or simply feeling financially secure. We're not trying to cut out joy. It's about prioritizing our values and well-being. We want to empower you, right? Financial boundaries empower you to celebrate the season on your own terms. So then you won't have the guilt, anxiety, regret. And so this season, setting these boundaries can be your way of ensuring that you enter the new year with peace of mind. So you can think of financial boundaries as the guardrails that protect your financial wellness and keep you focused on what matters most to you, especially when you're surrounded by all the holiday hype. We want to provide you, our wonderful, amazing listeners, with tools on how to stay true to your financial goals. So we have identified 4 tips for you today, and let's talk about these. So tip number 1 is define your financial values. All right. So take some time and reflect on what's most important to you. Is it about spending more time with loved ones rather than buying expensive gifts? Or maybe it's prioritizing experiences over stuff. When you're clear about your values, it's easier to stick to a budget that aligns with them rather than feeling swayed by our holiday sales and social pressure. I think so many of the tips and things that we always talk about is it's like kind of start with tapping into yourself. We don't get a lot of mail, but now we're getting like catalogs, and it's starting that consumerism starting to come in and maybe deter you. So I just got this thing. Do you have a wireless or cordless vacuum?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So we don't, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't impact my life in any way. But I just got like the Kohl's catalog, and it's a cordless vacuum for sale. It's like you see it and then you think you want it, and then you get so distracted, and then you're like, oh, there's Black Friday. And I make a list of all these things I need to get, and it's like totally distracting from what actually my values are or what my intent is for the holiday season.
And it goes back to, I think, just sitting, because to your point is if you don't have a plan, then there are no guardrails, there are no anything because you haven't really thought through that. So it's like sitting with yourself and figuring out like, what is important to me? One of the things I think about for myself is what I don't want is my January credit card bill to come and see that there's like this huge amount of money that I have
Yeah.
to pay because when I think about my life and it always is something, but I think what's challenging is I go from that and then we move right into spring break planning. And so I
Mhm.
can't, sometimes it's hard for me to plan spring break, which I know people like to do early, but the holidays get in the way for me too. And so,
Yeah.
plus I had major car repairs anyway. So I think the other part for me when I think about my financial values is it's not also about what is current, what's important in terms of spending a lot of money or a little bit on people. It's
Yeah.
also what is my broader financial goal
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
can I make sure that something can align to that? It's hard. And it is, I love being a consumer, Jess.
I do
I love
too.
buying things. And that financial values piece is really important. And I think if you say it's like something else where I feel like if you say it out loud, like, I don't want a big credit card bill in the beginning of the year, but I really want to make sure I'm mindful about how I'm spending. And that can help.
Yeah. My daughter has so many clothes. She's so into fashion. And I was talking to her and she was like, I just love, like I said earlier in the Superwoman Diaries this month about I relapsed because her and I had a rough weekend. So we went to the mall to feel our pain. So it's like trying, I think a big theme of season 3 is mindfulness, right? So just us
Yes.
again being mindful. And so I
Yes.
think that transitions us into tip 2, which is setting a realistic holiday budget and sticking to it. Be upfront about what you can comfortably spend without going into debt or sacrificing future goals. So, creating a holiday budget involves setting clear spending limits for various categories and aligning those with your financial goals and values. So, I love this. I love what we're exploring today. And we're going to break it down a little bit. But typically, I don't know about you, when I think about a holiday budget, and I've set budgets before, it's only for gifts. Like, I have
Yeah.
never set a budget and
No.
thought about cards, wrapping paper, travel, events, like
Food,
anything like
eating
that. Like, I've
out.
never
Yeah.
thought about that. And
No.
so,
And it's probably
yeah.
why my credit card bill is so high when it comes to the January, February timeframe.
Yeah. So we have like a sample breakdown of where you can think about your budget, all the categories to think of, and maybe how you can break that down.
Yeah. So if we think about gifts, maybe think about that as 30-40% of your budget. So make a list of people that you want to buy for and assign an amount to them. Think about things that could be affordable but meaningful. Or maybe there are some people you really want to splurge on this year. You can also think about DIY gifts, homemade treats, personalized items, or experiences. I have found, especially with like grandparents per se, that like meaningful gifts make have much more of an impact, which
Yeah.
are much less costly than some fancy headphones or something else.
Yeah. Another part of our budget. So we've broken the budget into 5 categories. So the second category is food and entertaining. For food and entertaining, we're saying 20 to 25% of your budget. Okay. And then tips that you can do to reduce the budget. If you're entertaining, consider potluck style meals where everybody brings something. I know we talked about that on another episode too, but that's what I want to think about as well. Don't think you have to spend all this money, but allow your friends and family to bring items. You can look for ways to plan your meals or parties around more affordable ingredients or recipes that feed more of a crowd. So we've done before, like lasagna, right? Like a one pot meal, thinking about something that kind of feeds more people and is more budget friendly. If you're attending gatherings instead of hostings, you also may need to think about a budget if you're going to do wine, dessert, or if you bring a host gift, right? So something to think about all of that when you're planning the budget.
Yeah. And I think also what came to mind for me on this too, Jess, is we're so busy sometimes during the holiday season that you end up ordering in a lot. So I think about food and entertaining, you eating out with your family or you ordering in. And so that's another maybe thing you want to think about too.
Yeah.
We got food, we got gifts. One of the things that is I sometimes do a lot and a little depending on the year are decorations. And so you probably want to think about that as 10 to 15% of your budget. So look for deals on decor. Start early, look for coupons and things. Look for even have a plan in terms of what you want in terms of decorations because sometimes I find that I'm like, "Oh crap, I forgot I have this like box in the back of the closet that already has all the decorations. I don't need more Christmas towels or something else."
Yeah. Yeah.
Also consider some DIY decorations to save. Think about reusing things you already have, right? So that's the point here is look back in the deep crevices of your storage to see if you've got something. Maybe you didn't use it last year, but maybe a couple years ago. Think about things like that.
Yeah, I reuse all of our decorations and I was thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna have 0% on this budget." However, we have gone back to a live and real tree. So I'd
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
think
yeah.
about that in the budget. And then last year
Hmm.
I did add a few more items. There was a part of the house that I felt was empty. And so I bought a couple more items. So I think for me, yeah, thinking about that, if you're like, oh, I have all the decorations I need, really sit with that for a little bit just to make sure that there might be some things that you're not thinking about.
Yes. I'm a minimalist when it comes to the decoration stuff, especially if I'm not hosting anything. Because I think a couple years ago I had to host Christmas. So I went bananas on everything then.
Yeah.
So we'll see where I end up this year.
We have a lot of storage space in our home. And so I'm able to store
Yeah.
basically most of my storage is just Halloween and Christmas decorations. That's
But I
about
do
what's in my
think I'm, like,
storage.
incrementally adding things through
Yeah.
the year, you
Right.
know?
You're in
And
a
again,
newer
look for those
home.
sales, look
Yeah.
for different deals and things to get ideas and be creative too.
Yeah. The fourth category is travel, which we're recommending 15 to 20% of your budget, which who knows where you're traveling to, that might really be a
Mhm.
lot more of your budget. But think about gas, lodging, meals if you're traveling out of town. Book in advance to get the best rates on transportation and lodging, or look into carpooling with family or friends to share costs. And we've talked before in other boundary episodes, Kelly and I will not be carpooling, but thinking about in advance, looking at, I got you and I both have like companion fare with Southwest, so that's a way to make it a little bit cheaper. Or really looking if you set this budget and 15 to 20% is travel and traveling somewhere would just totally blow your budget, that's where the boundaries come in of, like, you know what? That's not going to fit into our plans this year. I'd love to go see the family, but that's going to cost us $2,000 and that's not in the budget.
And on the flip side, if you are planning to travel during the holidays and you're not gonna be home, maybe don't spend as much on decorations and
Yeah.
use that money for travel. The other thing to think about with travel is it's not even going out to seeing family, but maybe it's also just activities.
Yeah.
The cost of things when you get there, or maybe if you're out and about even in the city or your
Yeah.
town and you're involved in activities or you want to do certain things, consider the costs of those. It is amazing to me just how the price of things just really adds up.
Oh my
You
gosh,
know,
I
when you
know.
want to do certain
I
activities or you
know.
want to take the kids somewhere
Yeah.
and even like holiday train activity or something where it's like $50 a person, or we
Yeah.
usually try to do a like a Bulls or a Blackhawks game during
Yeah.
the holiday season. So those are some other things that you need to factor in.
I was thinking about too, it's funny, when I was, like, researching this episode, looking at budgets, they gave an example of a $500 budget, and it was, like, $100 on gifts, and I was just like, "I'm sorry, but
Was that from
doesn't that
1975?
feel impossible?" I don't even know, right? Like, how you would have a $500 budget, and it just is overwhelming, right? When we're thinking about it, like, this is really an expensive time. And so again,
Yes.
just I know we're gonna have some more tips I'm excited to get into, but just really thinking about what am I doing and what do I want from this season? Because we're gonna be spending probably in the thousands of dollars in these next few months.
I think the other part too, and maybe I'll pause that for the wrap up. But right now, the last and final tip in terms of costs that you need to think about are the holiday cards and wrapping supplies. So it depends on if you're a super duper love to do the gift wrapping person, you're paying for the gift wrap, which by the way is not cheap anymore, unless you can find sales or unless you had the foresight and bought in last January.
Mhm.
but all the little decorations and things or little bags. I'm always buying like a wine bag or all
Yeah.
the gift bags. Plus, the holiday cards for me, I am counting even if you send out New Year's cards because you can't get it together for Christmas. Talking about a friend, not me at all. But it's not only the cost of the cards, but I actually just I have them do everything. I have them address them and send them to
Yeah.
from Shutterfly or wherever it is
Mm.
I use. And the other thing too, now that I'm thinking about that, is even if you do all that, consider changing card people because sometimes you can get a really good deal on different places,
Especially
and
if you
there's
do it
always
early.
coupons. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and if you do
Mhm.
it late, Jess, there's like the window, right? I think if you do it early, it's a good deal. If you do it like the week leading up to Christmas, they
Yeah.
keep sweetening the pot on the 40, 50% off stuff too. So
Yeah.
that's another way to save.
And we're recommending that to be maybe about 5 to 10% of your budget.
Yeah.
And we have some like extra little tips there with just tracking every purchase. I love the idea of using cash if possible. If you could, that really research shows if you use cash, you will stick to a budget more than if you're just like putting it on a card.
I think it's amazing because I don't do that,
Yeah.
but I think it's a great idea. The other thing, honestly, about this is I don't know about any of our listeners, but I don't even know how much I spend during the holidays if I look at it in these categories. So one of the other things to think about is maybe you just want to set a baseline this year and actually just track your spend, be
Yeah.
mindful of
So you
it.
know for next
And
year.
yeah, just think
Great.
about it. And as you're going, then maybe you're like, oh, wow, we're spending a lot of money on gift wrap. And I have 500 bajillion rolls of holiday paper already.
Right.
And so it's just, again, this is about mindfulness and being more
Mhm.
conscious and intentional about what you're.
And change takes a long time. So it's not like we're asking you to totally overhaul everything and add more stress, right? It's just something to think about. And
Yeah.
we need to stay flexible. Holiday costs can add up quickly. So you might want to have a small buffer of 5 to 10% for unexpected expense. But I think if you're able to stick to a budget in these categories, that will reduce the stress and you'll have less financial regrets. We'll be right back. I think that Warrior Strong Wellness is really on the cutting edge of what is going to help us with our mind, our body, our gut. The collagen's great for gut, joint, bone
Mhm.
care.
I love the collagen bone broth. It's got protein in it and it's got collagen. It helps me feel good, especially when I'm not feeling so well. Plus the protein, which every woman is not eating enough protein. The other product that I absolutely love is the pure organic ashwagandha max supplement. It provides adrenal support. It balances energy and mood, helps with nervous and immune health. Taking two of those in the morning really helps regulate my stress response and I sleep better. So if you are interested or would like to know more about Warrior Strong Wellness products, check that out at warriorstrongwellness.com and use code Chasing Brighter for 10% off. And now back to the show. Let's recap where we are. So first of all, we talked about defining our financial values, and then we talked about setting a realistic budget. We went into various categories on what are all the aspects of spend that you want to consider during the holiday season. So, Jess, what is our third tip?
Our third tip is communicate your boundaries, right? Communicating our financial boundaries with family and friends can be tough, especially if there's a tradition of big gift exchanges or expensive outings. So we need to remember that setting boundaries isn't about saying no, but it's about saying yes to what truly matters to you. Let your loved ones know that you're focusing on mindful spending and finding ways to celebrate without overspending. We understand that creating boundaries is one thing, but implementing them is another. Communicating boundaries with family and friends, it feels challenging, especially during the holidays where there's all this pressure to spend. However, having these conversations can bring a sense of relief, reduce stress, and help set realistic expectations. So we want to break down 5 ways that you can communicate boundaries to your family. So the first one is being honest and upfront. So start the conversation early in the season. Let your loved ones know that you're being mindful about spending this year. You're trying to prioritize your financial health. And you can frame it in a positive way. Hey, this year we're going to focus on more mindful spending. So we can start the new year with less financial stress.
And part of that too is really setting clear expectations. So if your family tradition about exchanging gifts suggests setting spending limits or even doing a secret Santa to make it more affordable and manageable for everyone, chances are everyone already has a lot of stuff. So the idea of instead of maybe spending it on every person individually, that you do exchange and you're only buying like one gift and you're setting a dollar amount and really trying to stick to it. I'd love for us to do the Secret Santa this year instead of buying individual gifts.
I love that idea.
Maybe we do that, and
I
that
no,
would
I think
really
I was thinking about it, and I don't like it to be gendered, but I really think we could do a guys and a girls and maybe even
yeah,
wrap Gabby and the older boys in it. You
yeah.
know what I mean? I really like that, and I think that could be fun, and I like the
Even white
idea, right?
elephant is fun, right?
Yeah, a white elephant. I
Yeah.
know I have a lot of friends and family. I remember the first time I heard about that, I had a friend, I think he had 7 siblings when we were in college, and they drew names for his siblings, and they did homemade gifts, and it had to be homemade. I remember helping him make Candyland, and I remember helping him make all the characters were all of his siblings, and so it was just so fun, and I'm like, "I had never really heard of that." So, there are ways that this could be really fun, and so that's where another way when we're communicating with family is offering alternatives. Suggest meaningful, low cost alternatives. Propose a potluck, a game night, simple ways of gathering. You can tell people, like, hey, you guys, instead of going out this year, how about we do a cozy movie night or a game night at home? I think that'd be really fun and we'd all save a little bit of money. Right. And
Yeah.
I think that this is a lot of pressure and stress for everyone. And so maybe that also lets other people off the hook who have been really stressed and
Yes,
thinking they need to be keeping up with
exactly. I think
everything.
that's a great point, is that many might feel the same way you do or share some of the concerns. And they might, even if they're resistant at first, maybe they will come around once they think through it. Especially because sometimes people are really stuck to just, this is what we've always done and not necessarily want to change. Again, just being open, honest upfront, and just thinking about different ways that you could approach this. We want to stand firm, but be kind. So this is about, I always say this is coming from love and kindness. I don't know if I
Right.
learned that from Janet or what, but it's, I'm not coming about that coming from any other way except for, I don't mean any ill will on anyone when I say things, but it's not everyone's going to understand. They may not agree with you. Some may, some not. Um, some may even question and push back, like I said. But it's important that you can be respectful, but stand firm on your decision, especially if it is, we're not going to join X dinner this year, or we're not going to make it to X party, whatever that may be, and being able to stand firm on that. And you might say, I totally understand if others want to celebrate in a certain way, but this is what feels right for us this year, or what feels right for me. And really, even just say, like, I'm looking forward to focusing on the time we'll spend together rather than the gifts.
Yeah. I think all of this encourages open dialogue. Financial boundaries can be contagious in a good way. Others might feel the same way, right? But they don't know how to bring it
Yeah.
up. So your openness could inspire family members to set their own boundaries. And you can say to people too, it could be open ended. Hey, I'd love to hear your idea on how we can celebrate more meaningfully. It's nice to know I'm not the only one trying to just simplify. So, what are your ideas to make things a little simpler?
Now we're going to shift our focus to meaningful moments. So, our final tip is tip number 4, which is shift the focus to meaningful moments. So, it can be helpful to plan a few non material ways to celebrate. We talked about this moments ago, but you can think about activities your family like potlucks or game nights or movies or baking, just different ways to spend time with family and friends. These are the types of gatherings that are very joyful and memorable. And it's less about maybe getting gifts and more about just really spending time and creating some lasting memories than what you're buying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, this can transform your season into maybe really, hopefully, having more genuine connection and joy without needing to rely on extravagant spending or activities that don't always align with your values. Focus on what brings you true joy. So, when it comes to financial spend and you're thinking about your budget, what truly brings you joy? Reflect on that. Think about what's making you happy and fulfilled during the holidays. I remember that was meh, especially because I go back to this too, Jess, where it's we think about like certain things we may have done in the past and we're like, did I really have a fun time doing that? Or was I so focused on just getting that, having that activity be
Yeah.
checked?
Yeah. So I think we're like, okay, we're setting these boundaries, but it's like by creating more meaningful moments, right? We can look at more experience based traditions. I love what you're talking about baking cookies together. We did like a less expensive kind of train experience last year. We did the Boulder City train experience. Maybe instead, why couldn't I have just invited local family over and we have Christmas trivia board game and let's say we had wassail, right? Growing up, maybe we
Mhm.
have wassail and a cookie exchange or something that is something that we put together and create. And the kids could help me decorate and they could help me make cookies that day and kind of make it a thing versus buying tickets to something,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so activities that foster closeness and then shifting, maybe we can shift our focus to giving back, right? Nothing brings perspective giving to those in need. You could volunteer, you could donate food, you could organize a drive. Acts of kindness can be fulfilling. And I think that helps our kids shift their focus as well.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And that's a hard one. Actually, now Wes started high school at DePaul Prep. It's a real like service school in a lot of ways. So there's always opportunities to volunteer. I just saw something come through with that. And I would love to do that. I do know friends who have done it and really find it so meaningful and a really great way to give back during the holiday season. Or even just the trees where you're buying gifts for families, or you're buying gift for a certain kid or winter gear or whatever. You probably don't have that winter gear list, but in
That's
Chicago we
right.
do.
Yes.
Okay, so the final thing, make time to truly reflect and really think about how you want to be practicing gratitude. Set aside time each day during the holiday season for gratitude, journaling, and quiet reflection. It gets crazy. And I think this is about really taking a moment, sitting with yourself, and really keeping yourself grounded, appreciating the present and what's really important and recentering yourself on that. And that can be as simple as writing down a few things you're grateful for. Maybe it's doing a meditation with an intention. Maybe it's reflecting on certain memories that bring you a smile. Maybe it's looking back through pictures. Look at your photo album. We have 100,000 pictures in our.
Yeah.
And practicing gratitude is something that we know is so great for the mind, body, and soul. And it really brings a sense of fulfillment and peace and really helps reduce that urge to seek out satisfaction, immediate satisfaction,
Yeah.
and especially through material means.
Yeah.
Planning unplugged time helps us
Mhm.
disconnect
Yeah.
from comparison and being fully engaged in the present. And it gives us a break for our brains. Our brains need a break. There's so much of the shoulds, I feel like that
Yeah, I
overtake.
think we're inundated with social media. And like I said, even now ads are coming through our door and seeing and hearing all of these things. And so it's important that we continue tapping back into ourselves. Again, driving as we started this episode, really starting by defining your values. These steps are here to allow you to turn inward and to focus on what the holidays are truly about, which we think they're about connection, gratitude, and simple joys. So, this is our opportunity to redefine success for the holidays. Often we feel pressure to meet certain standards during the holidays, having a perfectly decorated home, an abundance of gifts, or a busy calendar.
Redefine what holiday success means to you personally. Sit with it, think about it. Think about what really will bring you joy. I think last year, you got to check out our previous episodes. I think we really focused on how to have a happy, healthy holiday and how to really enjoy the moment. I think we're taking this a step further because when it comes to holiday, we tend to spend a lot and you don't need to spend a lot. But really think through what you're doing. Be mindful and intentional about how you're spending your money as well as your time. And because that will also give you a payback down the road. So, shifting success away from doing and more toward being, giving yourself permission to slow down and savor the season without really weighing into or leaning into the consumerism and the pressure that we all face. So, set those boundaries, make room for the holiday season in a way that's rich and meaningful in terms of experiences and connections and things that will bring you long lasting happiness beyond the holiday season.
Remember, setting financial boundaries during the holidays is not about being stingy or taking away from the joy of giving. It's just about making sure that you're not sacrificing your own peace of mind or future well being in the process.
We want you to make space for joy and calm so you can truly enjoy the season without stress and unnecessary pressures. Ah, doesn't that sound amazing, Jess?
Yes.
So, thank you for tuning in today. We hope these tips, and then we know that there's a lot of them, will really help you approach this holiday season with intention and joy. Thanks for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear our latest episodes as soon as they drop.
If you loved today's episode, share with a friend. Come visit us on Instagram or Facebook. Make sure to give us a follow. We have lots of giveaways. If you want to know more about Kelly and I, read our blogs, find more tips, tools, and resources, check that out at chasingbrighter.com. Thanks.